The fox concubine. They say that in Liwu, Shandong, there was a man named Liu Dongjiu who held an official position in Fenzhou, Shanxi. One day, he was alone in his residence when he heard laughter approaching in the courtyard. He looked up to see 4 women entering, one around 40, another in her 30s, a third around 24 or 25, and the last a young girl without tied hair. They all stood by the table, smiling at each other. Knowing that there were many fox spirits in the official residence, Liu didn't pay them any attention. After a while, the youngest girl playfully threw a red silk scarf onto Liu's face. He picked it up and tossed it out of the window, still ignoring them. The 4 women laughed and laughed. One day, the eldest of the women came into Liu's room and said, "My younger sister has a connection with you. Please don't reject her." Liu casually agreed, and the woman laughed. In a short while, she returned with a maid, leading the younger sister. She asked them to sit side by side, saying, "You to make a good pair. Tonight, you shall be married. Take good care of each other. I'm leaving." Liu carefully observed the young girl, who was extremely beautiful, and engaged with her. He also inquired about the woman's background. She said, "I'm not entirely human, but I am human in reality. I am the daughter of the former provincial official. I died after being bewitched by fox spirits and was buried in the garden. The foxes used magic to resurrect me, so now I appear as a fox-like being." After hearing this, Liu reached out to touch her back. The woman sensed it and laughed, saying, "Do you think I have a tail?" She turned around and added, "Feel free to touch." From then on, the young girl stayed and never left. Her every move was accompanied by the young maid. The household treated her with the respect due to a junior wife. When the maids and servants came to pay their respects, she rewarded them generously. On one of Liu Dongjiu's birthdays, many people came to celebrate, and they prepared over 30 banquet tables, necessitating the employment of numerous chefs. However, only 1 or 2 of the agreed-upon chefs arrived. Liu was quite angry. The woman knew about this and said to Liu, "Don't worry. Since the hired chefs are insufficient, you might as well send the ones who did come away. Although I don't possess significant skills, ranging over 30 banquet tables isn't difficult." Liu's anxiety turned into joy upon hearing this. He had the fish, meat, vegetables, and seasonings moved to the inner courtyard. The household members heard the clatter of chopping and stir-frying utensils resonating from inside, non-stop. A table was set up at the door, and servants placed trays of dishes on it. In the blink of an eye, the table was filled with dishes. Dozens of servants were busy going back and forth, yet the supply never seemed to run out. Finally, when the servants came to ask for soup-filled pastries, they heard the woman say from inside, "Master didn't request pastries beforehand. How can I produce them in an instant?" Soon after, she said, "No worries, let's temporarily borrow them." In a short while, the woman instructed the servants to take the pastries. When they brought them out, there were over 30 bowls of piping hot pastries on the table. Once the guests departed, the woman told Liu, "Bring out money to repay the cost of the pastries." Liu promptly sent money to the intended recipients. Confused about the missing pastries, they were wondering about it when the messenger with money arrived, clarifying the situation. One night, while Liu was drinking, he suddenly felt a craving for the bitter home-brewed liquor of his hometown. The woman offered to fetch it and laughed. She returned shortly and said, "There's a jar outside that should last you a few days." Liu went outside and saw a jar of the exact home-brewed liquor he was craving. After a few days, Liu's son-in-law, Qi Sheng, came to see the woman. She declined to meet him. Despite repeated requests, she refused to see him. Liu said to her, "Qi Sheng isn't a stranger. Why won't you see him?" She replied, "When my son-in-law visits, he will undoubtedly expect a gift from me. But his desires are excessive, and I doubt I can satisfy him. That's why I don't want to see him." Later, when Qi Sheng insisted on seeing her, she allowed a meeting 10 days later. On the appointed day, Qi Sheng entered the room and paid his respects from behind a curtain. After a brief exchange of greetings, he left. However, after walking a few steps, he couldn't help but turn round to take another look. The woman said, "The son-in-law turned back. She burst into laughter, her voice sounding like an owl's hoot. Qi Sheng was so frightened that his legs went weak, and he stumbled around like a lost soul. After a while, he finally settled down and said, "When I heard that laughter just now, it was as loud as thunder, and I felt like my body wasn't my own." Not long after, a maid brought Qi Sheng 20 taels of silver as a gift from the woman. Qi Sheng accepted it and told the maid, "Living with the sage immortal and my father-in-law. Why doesn't she know that I am used to extravagance and I am not accustomed to spending small sums?" Hearing this, the woman said, "I knew he was like this. Last time, his money pouch was empty, and my companions and I went to Kaifeng. The city happened to be flooded, and the silver stored in the warehouses was submerged. We managed to salvage a small amount of silver each. How could we satisfy his insatiable demands? Besides, even if I could give him more, his fortune is too meager to bear it." The woman could foresee everything. Whenever Liu encountered difficult problems, he consulted her, and she always helped him solve them. One day, as they sat together, she suddenly looked up at the sky, astonished, and said, "A great disaster is approaching. What should we do?" Liu asked about the well-being of their household members. The woman replied, "Everyone else is fine, but I'm worried about the second son. This place will soon become a battlefield. You should request an assignment to a distant place to avoid the calamity." Liu followed her advice and requested permission from his superiors to transport supplies to Yunnan and Guizhou. This journey was quite distant, and though others expressed concern, only the woman congratulated him. Soon, Zhongying rebelled, and Fenzhou was occupied by bandits. Liu's second son arrived from Shandong just in time for the upheaval and was killed. After the city fell, all the officials, big and small, met their demise. Liu alone survived, as he was away on official business. After the rebellion was quelled, Liu returned. Later, he was implicated in a major case and faced penalties, leading to severe poverty. Facing extortion and threats from those in power, he contemplated ending his life. The woman advised him, "Don't worry. There are 3,000 taels of silver under the bed. You can use it to sustain yourself." Liu joyfully asked, "Where did you get it?" She replied, "In a world without an owner, why worry about stealing what's limitless?" With the help of her plan, Liu returned to his hometown, and the woman went with him. A few years later, the woman suddenly departed, leaving behind a package containing a few items. Among them was a small mourning flag that had hung on their door during the funeral, round 2 inches long. People considered this to be an ominous sign. As expected, Liu Dongjiu passed away not long after.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.